Hello friends and fellow aliens, and thank you for tuning into this video. My name is David, I'm an author, I'm an INFJ. I throw myself out on YouTube and talk about books and writing stuff and INFJ stuff and general psychology and all those things that we love to dig into. And I am glad that you are here for part of my journey and here to check out what I'm about to talk about in this video, which is the INFJ critical parent. No, I'm not talking about your mom that's telling you that you need to clean your room, though that technically is a critical parent. I'm talking about your cognitive function that is within your shadow function stack, and it is called the critical parent. So buckle up. We're going to get a little nerdy on some of this stuff, but I kind of want to dive into how you as an INFJ can be very critical of yourself. I'd like to talk to you about how you can use your own harsh internal voice and kind of turn it around to learn about yourself, learn about where your boundaries are, and learn how to actually become healthier out of it. Before I begin, this video is brought to you by my book, The Caretaker, which is available on Amazon. It has 5 stars, over 100 reviews, 300 and a bunch of pages. This one happens to be my copy. It's a not for resale copy, and I've got some tags in there because my last video I was reading some excerpts from the book. Please check that out. I know that if you are an INFJ or you are interested in MBTI and how different functions interact or different personality types interact, you will greatly enjoy this book. Lots of great reviews on it. People speak very highly of it and the characters and the adventure and the world that is in there. So yeah, I hope you'll like it. Link is in the description to snag it on Amazon. Video is going to come up here, and that's how you can score an autographed copy or even part of my original manuscript, edited manuscript with my coffee stains, blood, sweat, tears, notes, and everything else in it. No blood. I don't send DNA to people. That's a thing. If you enjoy the content of this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. And thank you for doing that kind of stuff. It's really nice to have a great community here and a great crowd, and I am sure that if you just hang out in the comments for a little bit of time, you're going to make some friends and find some cool people that think and feel in very, very similar ways to you. Speaking of feeling, onward to your critical parent. So what is a critical parent? As an INFJ, you have a set of cognitive functions. Yes, you have the letters, right? I for introvert, N for intuitive, that's introverted intuition, that is your primary, that's your dominant function, right? F for feeling, and J for judging. Those letters are important, and they give you the basic structure of what you tend to be as an INFJ. Deeper than that is your actual cognitive function stack, right? Now you've got 4 of your main functions that we're always talking about. The first one is NI, right? Which is introverted intuition. That's how you gather information about the world. It is subconscious. Your intuition is hoovering up all sorts of data about the world around you, throwing it all in there in some kind of data bank that you don't even realize is going on, trying to make patterns and connections. It's always figuring out your life as a giant puzzle, trying to get pieces to fit here and there. And when they do, boom, you have those aha moments where things just kind of make sense and everything's great and cats and dogs are living together and you're frolicking through a field of daisies playing a recorder, but not in like the bad way, like when you hear elementary school kids doing it and it sounds kind of awful, but like a really nice one. Maybe like a pan flute. Who is that guy that he had the albums of pan flutes? Zamfir or something? Yeah, Zamfir and his magical pan flute. Second on your cognitive function stack is your auxiliary function. That is your main way of filtering the world and looking at it, and that is through the lens of FE. You have a huge preference for FE, which is extroverted feeling, which is the emotions, feelings of other people and those environments. Think of it like reading the room. And as an INFJ, you're very good at reading the room. The only problem with being an INFJ is a lot of times you don't even realize you're reading the room. You just kind of feel weird until you realize what's actually going on to make you feel that way. But you are definitely in tune with others' emotions, and you will place that as a very, very high priority in your life. Your tertiary function is introverted thinking. That is your logical thought process, and it is a very internal process for you. So that allows you to keep things in check. It allows you to step back and say, wait a second, I feel this way, but let me logically look at this And what's the best thing to do? What's the best decision that I can make that takes into account the harmony of other people, but also is a logical decision? Without your TI, you would just be this emotional blob, just blobbing emotionally as a big blob. It's a terrible description. It's the best I could do right now, people. Last on your cognitive function stack for your primary, I guess, functions is your inferior function. And that is external sensing. That is how you interact with the physical world around you. External sensing being low is one of the reasons why you can get very tired when it comes to group settings, social interactions, and those kinds of things. It's one of the reasons that you need to be internal and recharge. It definitely dovetails with that I in INFJ. You get battery power for your own internal battery by having some alone time. Just because you don't have something like FI, introverted feeling, in your main functions doesn't mean that you can't access it or use it or that it doesn't exist. Your main functions are your ego. They are who you are. And with every INFJ, it is on a scale. You may have a slight preference for feeling over thinking. You may have a slight preference for intuition over sensing. Or you may have a moderate or strong preference for your functions. It all depends. We're all on a scale. And that's what makes us individuals. And that's what makes it so two INFJs are not the same. You have the same cognitive functions, yes. You have the same preferences, yes. But on a totally different scale and colored with all of your life experiences. So keep that in mind, that you can be an INFJ and somebody else can be an INFJ. You have the same cognitive functions, but you are not the same person. We are all individuals first. We are INFJs in terms of the engine that our brain is working on. So you have a shadow stack of functions. I'll go ahead and put it up here. And the one I want to talk about is FI, which is called your critical parent. Sometimes called like the witch or the witch function. It doesn't, I mean, it's appropriate, like Halloween's coming, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It can just manifest in some pretty harsh and abrupt ways. FI is introverted feeling. That is how you feel about anything, about a situation or about yourself or about others, in terms of aligning it with your values and your principles. So if you strongly believe in a particular principle and something happens to you or one of your friends does something that is directly against that principle, FI is going to kick in. And it's not something that's recognized by your ego as much. It is considered just this kind of outside thing. It's your shadow stack. It's not something that's ever present for you, but it's definitely there and it's definitely accessed. Think of FE as reading the room, and think of FI as reading yourself. It's a little trickier for INFJs because we put such a premium on FE, on extroverted feeling. It's that function that's just kind of like determining how you direct yourself. FE, like a good example of FE is if you're in a foreign country. For instance, if I traveled to Japan, and in Japan, it is customary to bow. And that's not a custom that we have in the United States. Now, I'm not going to go to Japan and have somebody bow at me and be like bowing stupid. I'm not doing your stupid bow. As somebody who has strong FE, you're seeing that. You're seeing this society and this culture and something that they have respect for. And you, in turn, feel the reverence for that thing. So even though you may fail at it and not do it the right way or do it at the wrong times, you'll try to immerse yourself in that culture because that is the expectation of others. That is their culture, their emotion, and their feelings. And that is something that you respect and put a lot of value on. FI, your internal feeling, not so much. Having an FI in your shadow stack is one of the reasons that you put more of a premium on the emotions of others as opposed to yourself. It's one of the reasons why you will put yourself and your needs on the back burner in order to take care of another individual. It's one of the reasons that you will sacrifice your happiness to make sure somebody else stays happy. It's you not rocking the boat. FI is judgmental. It is critical. And at its core, it doesn't mean it's all bad, because, as I'm going to explain, it can reveal a lot of things about the state that you're in and how you're being treated. The problem is to see through it and see through it with a clear lens. So FI manifests as an internal voice. It's the voice that's in your head that is saying something about you or something about another person. If you ever hear yourself or hear yourself thinking, does that make sense? If you ever think yourself thinking, you know what I mean? That like, well, like, I can't believe they'd be that way. How could they even do that? That is an FI kind of voice. You have a set of principles. Somebody did some form of behavior that is against those principles. And then you in turn have a snap judgmental reaction to that person. So that's FI at work. Where we as INFJs get into trouble with our FI is when we listen to that critical parent. We listen to that critical voice that is directed internally. It is when we feel shame, when we feel vulnerable, when we feel defensive over something, when we feel attacked, and when we feel that critique happening toward us, even if it's not intended, but that voice is so critical and it wants to reinforce whatever negative perception you may have of yourself, that it's going to echo a critique towards you much louder than it normally would. Think about it this way. Have you been in a relationship? And I know a lot of you, we talk about narcissists all the time, right? I don't want to totally get into that, but you've been in people on this channel have been in toxic and unhealthy relationships. Have you ever had that feeling of, you know what? I'm not going to say anything, even though I feel like I'm being treated poorly, because I don't want the fight. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to do these things. I would rather not get into it. It doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm fine. All of these things that you say, those are things where you're feeling a certain way, but you're using your FE in front of your FI. You're using that FE to say, you know what? Even though I feel like I'm being treated poorly, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to hurt that person. I don't want to rock the boat, so to speak. I don't want to shake things up. I don't want to conflict. I don't want any of those things. So I'm going to literally put my emotions, the boundaries that I've set internally aside, because FE is more important than FI. How they're feeling is more important than how I'm feeling. That's what you're saying. If you have been betrayed or you have betrayed yourself, FI is going to kick in. Let's say you're hanging out with somebody and you're not in a relationship, but you know that this person is probably toxic, not good for you. And maybe you hang out from time to time. Maybe that relationship gets physical, but it's kind of undefined and it doesn't have boundaries or borders or anything else. And you know that you can do better. You know that you need better and you deserve better than that situation. And so you may even tell that person, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. And then you make this decision one night where you're like, whatever, I'll text them and I'll talk to them and maybe we'll hang out again or whatever else. And that, you know that that's the wrong thing to do. And when you're done and when you've hung out and when you've reaffirmed what you already knew to be true, which is this is not a good relationship, this is toxic, this is unhealthy, it's a bad dynamic, you start to feel shame over that connection, over the fact that you were weak and you went back to that person. That weakness and that feeling of shame, that's your FI talking to you. Now, when this spirals out of control, it can get really bad. Your FI can say, look at all the times you failed. Why do you even want to try doing this? You're going to fail. Look at all the times you've fallen down trying to do something. You're going to fall down again. Look at your failed relationships. You're not going to be able to get into a healthy one. You're just going to fail over and over and over again because this is what you are and this is what you do. FI is very, very judgmental and critical towards you in those moments. And it's because you're looking at some of those past experiences and those things that your intuition is putting all those puzzle pieces together. It is feeding into all of your functions. And there's nobody external to blame it on. It's just like, well, there you go. Like, this is you. Look, like many of you out there, I've been a person that has made poor decisions. I've been through relationships. I've been divorced. I've been through really, really rough rides. I mean, I spent a portion of my life, albeit a small portion, essentially homeless. And it's because of those bad decisions. I knew at that time this was not something that I deserved to be going through. But at the time, I was in a relationship with a narcissist, and I didn't want to rock the boat. And I thought, well, this is what I deserve. I don't deserve more because this is the person that I am. That was my FI. It was being very, very awful to me for a very long time. So how do we listen to our FI? And what can we do to use FI for a purpose of good? The first thing is to understand that you are not your past experiences. Everything that is in the past has happened in the past. Everything that is in the future is undetermined. You are in right now. You're in now. When will then be now? Soon. Let me know if you get that reference, by the way. FI can help you set those boundaries. But in order to do it, you're going to have to overcome this feeling that you're being selfish. I deserve better is a very difficult thing for an INFJ to say because of the premium we put on other people's feelings and emotions. So when your FI is telling you that, and you're feeling shame and you're feeling dejected and you know you're not being treated right, but you're like, well, I guess this is what I deserve. No. FI is trying to alert you to something. It's saying, hey, listen, this situation sucks. And yeah, like you earned it, pal. But also, you don't have to be here. Something is wrong with this situation. If you're feeling feelings of shame and feelings of guilt and getting defensive and feeling attacked, you've got to look deeper than blaming it on the other person. Why are you feeling that way? Why are you truly feeling that way? FI is a little alarm system, and it's trying to let you know that something is absolutely off. Now, it may be slapping you upside the head, calling you a dumbass, and maybe you did earn that, but you aren't dumb. You just really need to listen and set the boundaries and understand what is happening and why you're being so critical internally. More than anything, FI is that thing that allows you to, when it's used in a healthier way, step back and say, all right, let me just keep my ego in check a little bit. It allows for some humility and some humble pie for you. You know, we always talk about that narcissistic thing where it's like they don't have empathy and they don't realize that they're a terrible human being or what have you. That FI's presence knocking you down and telling you that you're not good enough or telling you that you can't do something, that is confirmation that you have a conscience and that you have an ego that is being kept in check. The problem is you let it run wild, you let it grow, you let it feed on all of those insecurities and shame that you're experiencing, and it is going to get really overbearing. I have been in such a poor state in terms of my FI and how that is manifested and the terrible, terrible things it has been saying to me. It seems like every recording, my battery goes dead and then I have to replace it. And I'm not sure if it's the same frame. So if it shifted a little bit, I'm really sorry. Anyway, as I was saying, I've been in that terrible, terrible state in terms of FI. And it has said some things about me that where my inner voice was so critical and I'm being so hard on myself. I do it with YouTube all the time. You know, it's happening to me right now. As a matter of fact, it is a struggle to record these videos and get them uploaded. And the reason for that being is because I had such a hard time in my life in the last year. Everything was moving along to some degree on a pattern, on a routine. And then I got the news about my father and how he had cancer. And 3 months after that, he had passed away. The 1-year anniversary of that was yesterday. It has been very, very difficult for me to get past this voice because I had to make a lot of changes in my life. I changed where I live. I lost a parent. I ended up divorced. I had just numerous changes to my life, to my structure, to my routine. And it has been very, very difficult. It's not all bad. I'm in a wonderful relationship now with somebody who's beautiful and amazing and complicated and incredible, and I absolutely love her. I have a good job, and it's a solid job. I'm writing a second book, but I'm having a hard time with that. So there's that. It's just slow going. But I'm saying there's good and bad things. But that FI is going to sit there and find those bad things and find your little buttons, and it's just going to start pushing them and saying, look at you, you failed. You're going to fail again. You can't do this. It's that thing that's going to hold you back if you let it run wild. But if you learn to listen, step back, quiet your mind, and listen. Put your FE aside. Say, listen, you are important. It is important for me to consider the emotions and feelings of other people, but I got to listen to myself right now. And then you hear what FI is saying, and you dig down and understand why FI is saying it, you're going to realize that something is not aligning with your principles, that you need to be better, that you want to do something better, that you need to grow, you need to breathe, you need to blossom. All of those negative feelings are giant trees with a huge canopy, and they're blocking the sunlight, and you cannot bloom when that happens. And you need to bloom. So you tear down those things that are so critical. You tear down that tree that is shame. You tear down that tree that is defensiveness. You tear down all of that stuff to let that sunlight through so you can realize that you can actually grow and you can be nourished. It's really important. It's really, really important. Because as an INFJ, if you want to reach your full potential, you need to do that. You need to get out of your own way. And it's hard and it's scary, but you can do it. My sweet, sweet INFJ, you can do it. Now listen, I'm not an MBTI expert. I know what I know. I've studied a lot. I've talked to a lot of people that are steeped into MBTI and psychology. So I have a bit of a handle on what this means and what this is like for me and for others. But it's not the same for everybody. So I would like for you to share your experiences with your critical internal voice. What is that voice telling you? How is that voice holding you back? And how can you change what it is saying and change that around to actually progress and move forward? For me, my critical internal voice was telling me that I couldn't write a book, that I would never finish it, that I'd never complete the project, because I never completed a project before. It's been published for a year. So how did I get around that internal voice? For me, it was spurred on by the death of my brother, because I realized that anything can change tomorrow. It is not determined. And also, my past, just because I haven't completed a project before, doesn't mean I can't complete this one. Just because I've had relationships that have failed, doesn't mean I can't have or deserve a successful one. We're all different. We're all human. We all have failings, and we can all be honest with ourselves and with others. And when you do that, man, everything's going to be okay. I promise you, everything's going to be okay. All right? Thank you. I appreciate you watching this and listening. Again, link is in the description. Please, pretty please, if you can buy the book, if you have and you've read it and you haven't left a review on Amazon, please write the review. Just make it honest. I appreciate it. Reviews on Amazon for a self-published author are golden. And so I appreciate anything that you can do. If you want to support this channel in some other way, there are links down there to my Venmo and my PayPal. You want to buy me a cup of coffee? That's great. It's pumpkin spice season. I don't drink pumpkin spice, but that's fine. And once again, thank you. I appreciate you so much. You guys have really boosted me and stood by me when I've been going through some really difficult stuff. And believe me, I feel it. I feel it in my heart, and I'm just very, very grateful for you. So thank you, and I will see you again very, very soon.